I think if Steely Dan and Toto had a baby, and then that had a baby, there'd be a baby called Luoda.
This band mixes quite a few elements from different styles together.
What I love is that you actually can't really pin it down.
It's kind of rock meets funk meets jazz.
It's a bit of everything, and also then represents the lineup of the ensemble members as well. So it's anything and everything.
There's jazz, fusion, rock, pop.
There's a bit of soul, there's a bit of funk.
As the main writer, my background is quite varied. I've played a lot of jazz, a lot of rock.
All the different stuff that the people in the band have done and all the different experiences that the singers have had come together and write something that's completely unique.
I got involved with Luoda many years ago. Glenn, Ken and I worked very closely together for some years, and we spoke about this project almost on a daily basis.
Look, I think for me, being involved with this project was about hanging out with the guys. Like, 'cause everyone's a friend, everyone's a great musician. They're all monster musos, and for me, it's a hang. When we get together and rehearse and play, it's a killer.
The genius of Glenn Cannon, he'd written a whole lot of music that had no lyrics, and his vision for these pieces of music were that they were songs.
I think what made me interested in being involved, first and foremost, were the musicians and the vocalists that were going to be part of this project, but also the music. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone. It's something that I don't usually perform often, but really enjoy the challenge.
I've instigated this project as the main writer. Fortunately for me, I've had the privilege to work with some of the finest musicians in Australia, and also fortunately for me, they were very happy to get on board to work on my compositions and try and flesh them out so that we could do some live gigs and record an album.
Playing good music with good people is absolutely a non-negotiable these days. So with that in mind and loving Glenn's playing and Glenn's writing, it was sort of a no-brainer.
Oh, this is easy. What's another question? What else you got?
I pronounce the band name Luoda, but I understand that the correct pronunciation is Luoda.
Well, I pronounce it Luoda, and if I'm honest, I've got no idea what it means.
I pronounce it Luoda. It's a Finnish word, and it means creative.
I pronounce the band name Luoda, knowing full well that I think that's not how it's pronounced.
And I think it really represents the band. It feels like it's constantly in a creative space.
This was a bit of a tricky one because Glenn would send us the tracks and the melody and chords were kind of formed. The way I write is I have sort of a notepad and they're just sort of stories. So I would look over a story that I'd written and then try and fit that with Glenn's melodies.
Writing lyrics for this band was relatively straightforward. For the process for me was about getting the music inside my head and my ears and this feeling where the music led me in terms of lyrics, and then just trusting and following my nose.
I liked the challenge of being given a melody and having to write a lyric around a melody that just wouldn't be intuitively what I would ever write. So that challenge of, all right, how are we going to do this? And then all the crunchy harmonies, how can we evolve this into a vocal extravaganza?
Yeah, I actually didn't write any of the lyrics or have much of a say in the composing side of things. It was more arranging, getting together with the other vocalists, Janine, Troy, Josh, and just sort of figuring out the vocal arrangements with the harmonies.
So yeah, just what was the music going to evoke in my mind, and I just kind of went with that. And I think that's, there's no rules with songwriting.
For me, it's very much like a problem-solving process. So I have ideas and then I want to go, okay, what should I do next? So I'm always trying to come up with ideas but see things through to completion. I understand that the musicians in this band have diverse backgrounds, so the beauty for me is that everything can be on the table. In some ways, because of the nature of the musicians and the size of the band, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's a lot easier that I know that I've got this pretty open palette to work with.
Yeah, the recording process was quite tricky because we actually recorded this during lockdown, and Janine invited me over to do some of the vocal parts there at her place first and foremost, and then later on I actually finished my vocal parts at Troy's place up in the Dandenong, so 2 different studios, but we got the job done in the end.
Actually, it was a great escape during COVID because it gave me a purpose other than just kind of surviving through all the things that we couldn't do anymore. So it was actually a really nice way to stay connected and creative.
We had to sort of diversify the skills, record most of it, if not all of it, from home on our own, away from the rest of the band members, which was a great opportunity to sort out my own recording skills, but also really be in touch with the band and with the rest of the team, knowing that we're all on the same page. So it was a great new experience for me.
We're fortunate in this band to have Jerry Pantazis, not just as our amazing drummer and wonderful person, he's also quite an experienced engineer and has a really great setup. So I recorded all of my guitar parts at Jerry's place, and because he's so good, we were able to do that pretty quickly.
I had a chance to upgrade the studio that I had at home. It was quite a tricky one because normally when singers get together and record, all 4 of them, intonation, tuning, ideas can all be done pretty quickly. This was a bit tricky because, I think Janine went first on the recording and then the rest of us kind of followed phrasing, expression, breathing, all that sort of stuff. So it was a little bit of a tricky recording process, but yeah, enjoyable.
Ooh, Jerry. I'd love to be the drummer, but I'd have to play like him.
I would have to say if I could switch with anyone, I would love to switch with the guitarist, Glenn Cannon.
I think I'd switch places with a few people. I'd definitely switch places with Glenn because my Guitar Hero dreams need to come true at some point. But with that said, I'd definitely take the drum gig off Jerry because this band is so driven by rhythm and it's such a great chair and a great gig, so maybe with Jerry.
Oh, it'd be Rocky, just super hot. He's just super hot. Next.
I'd have to play bass because it's the easiest instrument to play. No, that's a joke, of course. As a kid, I always wanted to play drums, and that was my first choice of instrument, but I think, it was too big, too loud, too expensive, so I played guitar instead. But I'd love to play drums, but then I hear Jerry play and I kind of go, no, I should probably never play drums.
I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure, but maybe Beyonce. I think anything she does is so amazing. Trying to keep up with her and what she's singing and writing is amazing. So Beyonce.
Jeff Buckley. That Grace album, I can't get enough. And every time I come back to it, I just fall in love with it again.
Oh, it'd be Christopher Cross. Is that okay? Guilty pleasure. Christopher Cross, Jackson Browne, 70s music. Great songwriting. That's why I'm into Luoda. It's great songwriting.
I would have to say listening to current pop music and also listening to friends' albums. I like to listen to, my friends and their albums and what they've created, what they've done.
Recently though, I just can't stop listening to an album by an Icelandic band. They're an instrumental fusion band called Mezz, and they have an album they have lots of albums, but this particular one is called Playing for Time. I think it was like 1989 or something. The writing and the arranging and the playing, just everything together is, I don't know, it just really hits the spot for me.
We're still writing songs. We've got one album out. I think Glenn's got another 4 in the can.
We're kind of meeting up and coming together to kind of, work out the vocal arrangements.
And I think we're all pretty keen to be playing this music live as much as possible, get the album out there. So we're keen to see punters come along and check us out and support locally made independent music.
Maybe there's a second album, who knows? So watch this space.